Welcome to Miss T.L.L Tutor English First Additional Language Lessons. We are now going to learn how to correct errors in sentences, and I think we can concur, if not reach an agreement, that at times in English you may read a sentence and you find it very difficult to actually identify what's the error in the sentence. Sometimes you read it, the sentence flows, therefore it becomes a complex problem actually to really identify as to where the root of the error might be in a particular sentence. So we know that the structure of question, the last question of paper 1, examiners will always give you 4 sentences, and I've sampled sentences from November 2020 and also November 2021 final year examination paper, that which we are going to use to share, and I'm going to give you the skills that you can use to actually strengthen your language competency, as well as to be in a position to collect the first 4 marks of the language question, that which examiners would ask you to identify a single error in a particular sentence and then correct that error. And then I want to draw your attention to the instruction here. Learners, please learn to follow instructions in the question paper. It says that correct the single. It does not say rewrite. It says you must correct the single error in a particular sentence, not to rewrite the sentence. So it says single error in each of the following sentences. Write down only the question number and the words you have done what? The words that you have corrected. Please refrain from rewriting the entire sentence again without even underlining where you have effected changes or where you have effected or corrected the wrong word in the first place. So please ensure that you follow instructions. I would advise that just write the correct answers. Just write the correct words that you have corrected without rewriting. So please ensure that you follow the instructions as stipulated in your exam paper. Now, the first thing that you need to look out for when you actually correct sentences is to check the tense of the sentence. Are all the words in agreement with reference to the tense? Sometimes you may find that the sentence is in a present tense, then you have that one word that spoils the entire sentence. Maybe the sentence, that word is actually in a future tense, that which makes the sentence to be grammatically incorrect. So please establish the tense of the sentence in such a way that you can establish and to check as to whether all the words do agree and all the words are in the same tense. Because in English you cannot have a sentence that has multiple tenses. It end up being a very much distorted, if not grammatically incorrect or grammatically fragmented sentence. And then the second thing that you need to check is to check spelling. Please check each and every word. At times you find that the error is actually spelling, but because you are reading in a haste, you are not in a position to note that actually the error there is spelling. And with spelling, it goes back to what I said in one of my previous lessons, that if you want to win in English, please enrich your own vocabulary, because once your vocabulary is rich enough, you are in a position to note if we have, for example, spelling errors. The third thing that you need to look out for when you correct errors in sentences, it's concord. When you talk about concord, we talked about subject-verb agreements. Are the words in agreement? For any sentence in English to convey meaning or to make sense or to be logically correct, or to be grammatically correct for that matter, because here we are dealing with grammar, the words must agree. For example, you cannot say Tabo sing well. Even when you pronounce the sentence, if you want to pick up that the sentence has got actually a concord error, try to read it out. You'll always hear if the words do not agree. If you say Tabo sing well, it doesn't sound right? Because it needs to be Tabo sings well. Remember, the verb will always carry an S if the subject that you're talking about is in a singular format. You can't say the children is playing. The word is when you're talking about one thing, it needs to be the children are playing. So concord, basically it means the words should agree in a sentence for it to flow and to convey the idea that is stipulated in the sentence. And then another aspect that you can also check when you correct errors in the sentence is the use of an apostrophe mark. But however, you need to be careful with this one. Remember, and the use of an apostrophe mark is to show possession, that something belongs to someone, but also is to formulate what you call constructions. So you may find that you are reading a sentence with a word, for an example, don't, just written like this without being contracted, then you know that the error is the contraction of an apostrophe. Then you change that to don't, and then you punctuate it accordingly to say it should be what? Don't. Or at times you may find that examiners will do this deliberately. You have the word don't and the apostrophe mark is not placed in a correct way. Then you have to correct and now move it from here to place it where? To place it here. So now a recap again: you check tense, you check spelling, you check concord, you check apostrophe mark, but do not place or use apostrophe mark where it is not needed. Just check at times where maybe you come across words that need to be contracted and they are not contracted accordingly. And then you also check concord, agreements of words in a sentence. And for you to pick up the concord error, just try to pronounce the sentence out. If you can pick it up that the sentence doesn't flow, automatically we know that there's a concord error. So if you can follow all these, one of them is always an error in a sentence. Now let us look into the November 2024 sentences that examiners used to actually set to be corrected. And then remember, we follow instructions. You don't rewrite, just correct the single error. Welcome in our island. When I pronounce the sentence, it does not flow. Welcome in our island. So we know that if the sentence doesn't flow, we've got what? A concord error. So instead of saying the word in here, it's supposed to be welcome to our island. So therefore, we collect a mark because we picked it up that the issue here, it was actually concord. That is the welcome you receive where you go. Remember, I said you check tense, you check spelling, you check concord. So if the sentence flows, automatically I know concord is intact. There's no need for me to correct concord. Therefore, I'm left either with tense or spelling or the use of an apostrophe. That is the welcome you receive wherever you go. Now, when I check all these words, spelling, now I pick up a spelling error. This is not how you actually spell or write the word receive. So the issue in the sentence was actually spelling, and then here now I'm going to correct it to have the word what? Receive, and that's how you collect your mark. Now you go to sentence C. At first I thought the locals were just trying to relate the tourists because they knew we really liked Disney's The Lion King. At first, I thought the locals were. Now remember, we've got homophones, the words that sound the same but they are spelled differently. Therefore, their function and purpose will also be how differently. This way is not the way that you are looking out for. We need a way of an auxiliary verb that shows that it's in a past tense, so we correct it. This is the way that we need. Okay? So we can say concord was the issue because we don't need this way. However, we need this way. Right. And then the last one, remember, you'll only be given 4 sentences in English Fun. Not when our taxi drivers would get stuck in traffic. Not when stubborn goats wouldn't move out of the road. Now, we check tense, we check spelling. When I check spelling, all the words are spelled correctly. Concord, the sentence does flow. Now, I realize something here. We've got the word wouldn't, and you can note that this word is not even punctuated. So the problem here is the contraction and the incorrect, or if not the absence of the apostrophe mark. So you could change it to become what? Wouldn't. Then you add your apostrophe mark. There's your error that is being corrected. So you can see that from all these 4 errors, it's either tense, it's either spelling, it's either concord, it's either what? An apostrophe mark. Now let us check the November 2021. Now these ones are sampled from the November 2021. I'm not going to repeat the instruction. We know that we just have to correct a single error. There's no need to rewrite. And then remember, we check tense, we check concord, which is agreements of words in a sentence. We check spelling, if all the words are spelled correctly, and then we check the use of an apostrophe mark where applicable. Just like the people in most countries, South Africans love music. Now, when I look into the sentence, I pick up an error again. We do have an error. All the words are not spelled correctly because that's not how we spell countries. And then now I correct it to say countries. There's the error. spelling was an issue. South Africa, now this one is unique. South Africa is home to many award-winning artists. The sentence does flow. I don't have an issue of a concord because words do agree. I manage the concord. I don't have contractions that I need that are not punctuated, so I manage the apostrophe. All the words are spelled correctly. But now here we've got what you call award-winning. This is a compound word. For us to have a compound word, we must use a hyphen. So it's supposed to be award. You include the hyphen to say award-winning. Because when you pronounce it as a singular word, but you know that it is made out of two, so it is a compound word. So now this is a corrected version. You just take the same award-winning and then write it with a hyphen because now it's a compound word. Right. C, added to the list are the Ndlovu Youth Choir, the latest group to make the country proud. We read it again. I'd always advise that read it for at least 2 times. Added to the list are the Ndlovu Youth Choir. Now the question is, remember we spoke about concord. Do the words agree here? How many choirs are we talking about? We are talking about only one choir. So therefore we cannot use the auxiliary are because I is used for plural. So it means that now the error that we need to correct here is concord because the words do not agree. You're supposed to have the word is. So it's supposed to be added to the list is the Ndlovu Youth Choir. Now can you see or can you hear, once I add the word is, the sentence does flow. That means the issue here, it was what? It was concord. And then the last one from the November 2021 sentence to correct errors. Their performances on this show have made them a global sensation. We read it again. Their performances on this show have made them a global sensation. When I read it out, I can hear that the words do not flow. Again, it means that what we have here is a concord error because the words do not agree. Now, you cannot say their performance. It's supposed to be what? The error here is going to be what? Their performances on this show made them to be what? Made them a global sensation. Pardon me. Right. So, just a quick recap. You check the tense of the sentence if the tense does agree. You check concord, which is mainly subject, verb, and agreement, but I normally simplify it to say it's actually to indicate that the words must agree for any sentence to be sensible. The words need to agree in English. You check spelling. If all the words are spelled correctly, sometimes the error might be spelling, and then at times an error might be the use of it, or the use, if not the incorrect use of an apostrophe mark, or the absence of an apostrophe mark in words that should be contracted, or the words that to show also possession. And then can I also quickly repeat the function of an apostrophe mark? Remember, I can say Tabo's car. Here I'm showing possession, but if I say can't, here I have what? Contracted the word. This is a contraction, and then here this is to show what? Possession. So the purpose of an apostrophe mark is to either show possession or to show contraction. So you need to be careful with the use of an apostrophe mark. So I hope that now you'll be able to collect these 4 marks when correcting errors in question 5. Thank you.